Hi, and welcome to the third installment of Pangea Software's Behind the Scenes series. I'm Brian Greenstone, and in today's episode, I'll be talking about a game that we did for the iPhone that almost nobody knows that we had anything to do with. And that game is called Beer Bounce. Now, Beer Bounce is a 3D version of what we here in the United States like to call quarters. Elsewhere in the world, you might know it as coinage. And as I'm sure you're probably aware, the concept is you bounce a coin into a glass of beer, you drink a lot of beer. In Beer Bounce, you start by picking your coin. We've got 9 countries to choose from, and we tried to include the countries best known for their beer and their beer drinking. You can play with up to 7 people in the game, and all you do is you lift the coin with your finger and you let go. Some people try to flick the coin, but that's not actually necessary. Just lifting and releasing will work fine. And as you're probably aware, the goal is to get the coin into the glass of beer. The longer you play, the more wobbly the camera gets, so it gets harder and harder. And that's pretty much all there is to the game. It's simple, but sweet. So, a few weeks after the App Store launched in July of 2008, I was talking with Scott Harper. Scott's one of the artists that we worked with on many projects, and we were joking about how iBeer was such a huge success, and we thought, well, why don't we do quarters? But the problem was that Pangea Software back then had a reputation of being a very family-friendly video game company. And it really didn't fit into our plan to do a drinking game. It kind of would have been like Disney doing a drinking game. So we decided it was a bad idea and we moved on. But coincidentally, about 3 or 4 days later, I get this phone call from my contact over at Publisher X, another one of the iPhone game developers, and they had the same idea about doing a quarters game. So we got to talking and we realized that I could do a totally awesome 3D version of quarters. And the best way to go about it would be for Pangea to develop the game, but let Publisher X actually publish it, put their name on it instead of Pangea. So that way, if anybody had a problem with, family-friendly Pangea doing a drinking game, it was okay. In retrospect, all of my concerns about a drinking game tarnishing Pangea's image were completely unfounded. I just didn't expect the App Store to go down the path that it did. I expected it to be mostly Game Boy and PSP style, console quality games. And that's what I wanted Pangea Software to be a part of. But as we all know, the App Store is bursting at the seams with these, fun little apps like Beer Bounce. So it wouldn't have hurt us at all to have had released it under the Pangea name. Actually, it would probably have helped us sell a lot more copies because Pangea is such a well-known publisher in the iPhone market. Beer Bounce is by far the smallest game that we've ever done for the iPhone, and it really didn't take long to develop. It took me about 3 days of programming to do the code for the game, and Scott spent about a week or so working on the 3D models and the sprites, things like the beer mug, the table, the coins, and all the interface art. Now, the background that you see in the game, that was actually something that I put together, and it's a 360-degree VR panorama that I shot inside a place which is actually right behind my house here in Austin. Scott and I were trying to figure out what we were going to put for the background in Beer Bounce. Now originally we wanted to have like a traditional European style pub back there, but we were on a very tight schedule for Beer Bounce and we didn't have time to do all the research necessary to find a European style pub and get permission to use it. So I called up the owner of Fione's Pub and asked him if it'd be okay if I shot his place for the game, and he agreed. This is the gear that I used to shoot the VR panorama inside the pub. It consists of a Canon 450D digital camera with a Sigma 8mm fisheye lens, and all of that is attached to a Manfrotto panhead. Now what a panhead does is it allows you to rotate the camera around a critical point in the middle of the lens called the nodal point. So you can rotate the camera left and right, up and down, and all the meanwhile, the center of that lens stays at a fixed point in space, and this is critical for shooting accurate VR panoramas. Now I could literally spend 2 hours creating a video showing you how to create VR panoramas, but in short, the process goes like this. Using this rig, I shoot 4 horizontal fisheye images around in a circle, and then 1 extra zenith shot of the ceiling. Then these fisheye images are brought into a really cool piece of software called PTGUI, which stitches them together to create a single 360-degree equirectangular image. An equirectangular image is what you get when you unwrap a sphere. It's kind of like peeling an orange. For example, the map of the Earth is an equirectangular image because it's what you get when you unwrap a globe. To view a VR panorama on a computer, all you have to do is take this 2D equirectangular image and map it onto a 3D sphere. So what you're looking at now is the inside of a 3D sphere with the camera located in the very center. And the texture map on the sphere is the equirectangular image that I created with PTGUI. VR photography is really cool. And there's another iPhone app that we've done called Pangea VR. You can download it for free on iTunes. Pangea VR lets you view amazing VR panoramas from hundreds of photographers around the world. One of my favorites is this collection of panoramas taken inside a Japanese sake brewery. So, Beer Bounce is the one iPhone app that was created by Pangea Software that up until now almost nobody knew that we had anything to do with. It's a really cool little app, and whenever I take all of our games to trade shows or conventions, Beer Bounce is always the one that attracts people's attention first. So, I highly recommend that you check it out on iTunes. It's definitely one of those amaze your friends games, and it's a great thing to have at a party. Now, in the next episode, I'll be talking about the game with the best music soundtrack of any game that we've ever done. And that game is called Billy Frontier. So, until next time, cheers. I need a refill.